The rising sun painted the brightened sky with orange hues when Iris Stewart adjusted her simple uniform and took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell of the imposing mansion in Grace Park. At 42 years old, with over 15 years dedicated to domestic work, Iris bore the marks of a life of hard labor on her face, and in her eyes, the reflection of a pain no mother should carry. 3 years ago, her only daughter Annie had been taken by a tragic car accident. Since then, Iris had avoided all contact with children at all costs. Every child's smile was too painful a memory. "Welcome to the Miller residence," said the housekeeper. Mrs. Zelia, a grey-haired woman with a rigid posture, who opened the door with a serious expression. "Dr. Henry will be available shortly to meet you. In the meantime, I'll show you the house and explain your duties." Iris followed Mrs. Zelia through the mansion's corridors, impressed by the elegance of the place. Paintings by famous Sussex artists adorned the walls, and rosewood furniture gave the ambience an air of nobility. Through the huge windows, Brighton Bay could be seen in all its magnitude. "Dr. Henry has been very reserved since the incident," Mrs. Zelia whispered as she showed the immaculate kitchen. "His wife suffered a serious accident a little over a year ago. It was a shock for the whole family, especially for little Julia." "Julia?" Iris asked, feeling a tightness in her chest. "The master's daughter, 7 years old. A girl who was pure joy before it happened. Now—" Mrs. Zelia shook her head with regret. "She doesn't speak a single word. She uses crutches to move around and spends her days locked in her room. The doctor says it's psychological trauma, that it will pass with time, but it's been over a year already." Iris swallowed hard. No one had mentioned a child in the interview she had with the agency. Perhaps she wouldn't have accepted the job if she had known. "Your responsibilities include cleaning the social areas, laundry, and occasionally preparing some meals," the housekeeper continued. "As for the girl Julia, you will only leave her meals at her bedroom door. Dr. Henry is very specific about this. No one should enter the girl's room without his express authorization." As they ascended the marble staircase to the second floor, Iris observed the family photographs on the walls. In one of them, an elegant woman with delicate features smiled next to Henry, and a girl with curly hair and bright eyes. Obviously Julia. The contrast between the joy in that photo and the description of the child today made Iris's heart ache. "Iris?" A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. A tall man, approximately 45 years old, with slightly graying hair and deep dark circles under his eyes, stood in the hallway. "I am Henry Miller. Welcome. Has Mrs. Zelia explained your responsibilities?" "Yes, sir," Iris replied, timidly extending her hand. "Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope you adapt well to the house. Any questions? Speak to Mrs. Zelia. I have a few meetings today, so I won't be able to accompany your first day, but I trust everything will go well." Before Henry could withdraw, a subtle noise caught everyone's attention. A door at the end of the hallway was ajar, and from behind it 2 curious eyes watched. It was just a glimpse, but Iris could see a dark-haired girl with a frightened look. "Julia, go back to your room," Henry said, his voice soft but firm. The door closed immediately. He turned to Iris with a serious expression. "As Mrs. Zelia must have explained, Julia needs space. Just leave her meals at the door and don't insist on interaction. It's for her own good." The day passed with Iris learning the house's routine. Despite the elegance of the place, there was a heavy air, as if sadness inhabited every corner. In the late afternoon, Mrs. Zelia handed her a tray with Julia's dinner: vegetable soup, bread, and orange juice. "Take this to her room. Knock on the door, announce the meal, and leave the tray on the floor. Someone will collect it later," the housekeeper instructed. Iris went up the stairs with the tray in her hands. When she reached Julia's bedroom door, she hesitated. Something inside her, perhaps the maternal instinct she had been trying to suppress for years, prompted her to knock softly. "Julia? I'm Iris, the new employee. I've brought your dinner." Silence. She placed the tray on the floor as instructed, but couldn't bring herself to leave. Instead, she moved closer to the door. "The juice is orange. My daughter loved orange juice," she said almost in a whisper, not realizing she was speaking of Annie aloud for the first time in a long while. "If you need anything, I'll be downstairs." As she was about to move away, she heard a thud followed by muffled crying coming from inside the room. Without thinking twice, Iris turned the doorknob. She knew she was disobeying direct orders, but something stronger compelled her. The room was in semi-darkness, illuminated only by the late afternoon light filtering through a gap in the curtain. On the floor near the bed, Julia lay fallen, clutching a worn teddy bear, crying silently. Her crutches were tossed a few feet away, out of her reach. "Oh my goodness." Iris rushed to her, kneeling beside her. "Are you all right? Did you hurt yourself?" Julia looked up, startled by the unexpected presence. For a moment it seemed she would scream, but instead she just squeezed the teddy bear tighter against her chest. "Don't be afraid," Iris spoke softly. "I just want to help." "Did you fall trying to reach something?" The girl didn't answer, but her eyes, so similar to Annie's, and were fixed on Iris, studying her with curiosity. "Come on, let me help you back to bed," Iris offered, extending her hand. To her surprise, Julia accepted the help. As Iris lifted her into her arms to place her on the bed, she felt how light and fragile the girl was. She gently placed her between the sheets and adjusted her pillow. "There, now I'll get your tray. And you can have your dinner quietly," she said, going to the door. "And I'm hungry." The voice was so low that Iris almost didn't hear it. She turned, incredulous. Julia had spoken, 2 simple words that, according to everyone in the house, hadn't left her mouth in over a year. "Did you speak to me?" Iris asked, approaching again. Julia nodded timidly, still clutching her teddy bear. "I'm hungry," she repeated, a little louder this time. Iris felt tears forming in her eyes, but she held them back. With a gentle smile, she retrieved the tray and placed it on the girl's lap. "Then let's eat, shall we? The soup is still warm." As Julia ate in small spoonfuls, Iris sat on the edge of the bed, watching her. There was something in that broken child that resonated with her own pain, a reflection of loss she intimately recognized. "You won't tell Daddy you came in here, will you?" Julia asked after a few minutes. "That will be our secret for now," Iris replied, knowing she was taking a risk but unable to ignore the connection that was beginning to form. "But one day, when you're ready, we can tell him you're talking again." Julia offered a small smile, the first in a long time. And at that moment, something happened within Iris. A small crack opened in the wall she had built around her heart since Annie's passing. It was as if, in some inexplicable way, her daughter had guided her steps to that house, to that girl. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Julia asked, her eyes full of hope. "Yes, I will," Iris promised. "And I'll bring your breakfast." In the following weeks, a secret routine established itself between Iris and Julia. Officially, the employee followed instructions to leave meals at the bedroom door, but when the house was empty or everyone was busy, she would enter the girl's room. What began with brief conversations turned into hours of stories, improvised games, and, little by little, exercises that helped Julia regain strength in her legs. "My mom used to sing this song to me," Julia commented one afternoon, while Iris braided her hair. The girl had started talking more and more, though only when they were alone. "And do you miss her?" Iris asked delicately, knowing she was treading on sensitive ground. Julia was silent for a few seconds. "Every day. Sometimes I dream she's still here." The girl squeezed Teddy, her inseparable companion. "Teddy misses her too." "Teddy is the name of your bear." "Yes, Mom gave him to me before she—" Julia's voice trailed off. "Before she left." Iris felt her heart ache. She knelt in front of the girl and held her small hands. "You know, Julia, I also lost someone very special." "My daughter, Annie. She was a little younger than you." The girl's eyes widened. "And where did she go?" "To a very beautiful place where there is no pain or sadness," Iris replied, feeling tears threaten to fall. "But do you know what I discovered? That the people we love never truly leave. They stay here." She pointed to Julia's heart. The girl thought for a moment and then asked, "Do you think my mom and your daughter are together there?" "Who knows?" Iris smiled, wiping away a stray tear. "I like to think so. Maybe Annie is teaching your mom Brazilian folk songs right now." Julia gave a little giggle, a sound that hadn't echoed in that house for so long. Outside the room, Henry was passing through the corridor when he heard that almost forgotten sound. He stopped, incredulous, his heart racing. He quietly approached the door and listened to the conversation. "Can you teach me how to make that cornmeal cake you talked about yesterday?" Julia asked with an animation Henry hadn't heard since Patricia's accident. "Of course I can, but we'll have to convince your dad to let you leave." "This room and go to the kitchen," replied the voice he recognized as Iris's. Daddy will be mad at you for coming in here, Julia said with concern. Probably, Iris admitted. But some rules need to be broken when it's for the good of someone we love. Henry stepped back, conflicted. His first reaction was anger. Iris had disobeyed a direct order. But how could he reprimand her when, in just a few weeks, she had achieved what doctors and therapists hadn't been able to in over a year? He decided not to interfere for now. Perhaps, just perhaps, Iris knew something he didn't. The next morning, during breakfast, Henry did something that surprised even himself. Iris, I would like you to take full responsibility for Julia's care starting today. Not just meals, but bathing, clothes, and, well, social interaction too. Mrs. Zelia, who was serving coffee, let out an expression of surprise. Iris swallowed hard, trying not to show that she was already doing much more than that. Of course, Dr. Henry, it will be a pleasure. I believe Julia needs a more constant female presence, he continued, staring at the newspaper in his hands, as if trying to convince himself of what he was saying. You seem to have a way with children. That afternoon, Iris entered Julia's room without needing to hide anymore. The girl was sitting on the bed, drawing. Your dad gave me permission to officially take care of you, Iris announced with a smile. Julia looked up from her drawing, radiant. Does that mean I can leave the room? Exactly that. And do you know where we can start? In the kitchen, making that cornmeal cake. Initially, Julia still relied heavily on crutches, but being out of the room for the first time in so long filled her with new energy. In the kitchen, sitting on a high stool, she helped Iris mix the cake batter, laughing when flour fell on her nose. It was at that moment that Henry arrived home earlier than usual. The sound of laughter guided him to the kitchen, where he stopped at the door, observing the scene incredulously. His daughter, the same one who for weeks hadn't left her room, who hadn't spoken, hadn't smiled, was there with flour on her face, laughing like in the old days. "Daddy," Julia exclaimed when she saw him, not realizing how much that simple word meant to Henry. The businessman felt his legs weaken. How long had it been since he heard that voice calling him Daddy? He approached slowly, as if fearing that any sudden movement might break the spell. "Julia, you're talking." "We're making cornmeal cake," she replied, as if talking was the most natural thing in the world. "Auntie Iris taught me how to crack eggs without getting shells in the batter." Auntie Iris. Henry looked at Iris, who smiled shyly. "That's what she started calling me." "I hope you don't mind." Henry couldn't answer. He approached his daughter and hugged her tightly, trying to hold back the tears that insisted on falling. Over Julia's shoulder, his eyes met Iris's, a look of deep gratitude that needed no words. The following days brought even more significant transformations. Julia began to spend more time in the common areas of the house. With Iris's patient guidance, she returned to practicing the exercises the physical therapist had recommended and that she had previously refused to do. Gradually, her dependence on crutches decreased. "Are you seeing this?" Henry asked Mrs. Zelia, as they watched Julia cross the living room leaning on only one crutch. "It's almost a miracle that Iris has a gift," the housekeeper commented with a slight smile. "I was skeptical when you hired her to take care of the girl, but now I see it was the right decision." One evening, after putting Julia to bed, Iris found Henry in his study. He had called her for a conversation. "Please sit," he requested, indicating the armchair in front of his desk. "I wanted to personally thank you for what you've done for Julia. I confess that when I discovered you had disobeyed my instructions, I was annoyed, but the results speak for themselves. I apologize for breaking the rules," Iris said sincerely. "But something told me that Julia needed connection, not isolation." Henry nodded, thoughtful. "Do you have children, Iris?" The question caught her by surprise. For the past 3 years, she had avoided talking about Annie, but something in Henry's calm presence, in the gratitude she saw in his eyes, made her feel she could trust him. "I had a daughter, Annie. She passed away 3 years ago in a car accident." Henry closed his eyes for a moment, as if absorbing the pain of that information. "I'm so sorry, truly. After that, I avoided any contact with children. It hurt too much," Iris continued. "But when I saw Julia for the first time, something happened. It was as if Annie had guided me here." "Perhaps that's exactly what it was," Henry replied, his voice choked. "Do you believe in destiny, Iris?" She smiled softly. I believe that some pains can only be healed when we find someone who understands exactly how they hurt. The following week, the Miller house received a visit that would change the course of everyone's story. Dr. Christine Allen, a renowned neurosurgeon and Henry's girlfriend, arrived from a period of study in the United States. Tall, elegant, with perfectly styled blonde hair, Christine had a presence that commanded attention. "Darling, I missed you so much," she exclaimed, hugging Henry at the entrance of the house. Julia, who was playing in the living room with Iris, visibly flinched at the sound of Christine's voice. "Julia? My goodness, you're out of your room." Christine approached the girl, studying her with clinical eyes. "And using only one crutch. Incredible." "Auntie Iris has been helping me," Julia replied, instinctively reaching for Iris's hand. Christine looked at Iris, as if only now noticing her presence. "You must be the new employee Henry mentioned. You did a great job with Julia, congratulations." There was something in Christine's condescending tone that made Iris uncomfortable, but she smiled politely. "Julia is a very brave girl. The credit is all hers." Of course," Christine said, turning her attention back to Henry. "Darling, we need to talk about the plans for our engagement dinner. I was thinking something at the Brighton Yacht Club. What do you think?" "Engagement?" Julia looked at her father, confused. "I was going to tell you today, Princess," Henry said, running his hand through his hair nervously. "Christine and I are getting married in a few months." A heavy silence fell over the room. Iris watched Julia's expression change. The sparkle that had returned to her eyes seemed to diminish again. "We're going to be a beautiful family," Christine declared, placing her hand on Julia's shoulder, who subtly pulled away. "You'll love having a mom again, won't you, dear?" Iris felt Julia's hand squeeze hers tightly. Something about that scene deeply bothered her. The way Christine talked about replacing Julia's mother, the way the girl retreated. Something was wrong there, and she could feel it. Christine's presence brought a palpable change to the atmosphere of the Miller house. The mansion, which was beginning to fill with life and laughter again, seemed to recede into a tense atmosphere. Julia became quieter again, though she continued to speak normally with Iris when they were alone. "I don't like her," Julia confessed one afternoon, while Iris helped her with her leg exercises. "She smiles with her mouth, but not with her eyes." Iris hesitated. She didn't want to negatively influence the relationship between Julia and her future stepmother. But she also couldn't ignore the clear signs of the girl's discomfort. "Sometimes it takes time to truly get to know people," she replied cautiously. "Maybe you and Christine just need to get used to each other." "She's different when Daddy isn't around," Julia insisted, with a perception beyond her 7 years. "Yesterday when you went to the market, she came into my room and said I needed to behave or she would send me to boarding school." Iris felt a chill run down her spine. "She really said that? Are you sure you didn't misunderstand, Julia?" "I'm sure," the girl confirmed, her eyes watering. "Auntie Iris, don't let her send me away, please." Iris hugged Julia tightly. "No one is going to send you away, my love. I promise." That night, while tidying the kitchen after dinner, Iris watched Christine, Henry, and Julia in the living room. Christine spoke animatedly about the wedding plans, but her eyes revealed irritation every time Henry paid attention to his daughter. "I've been thinking," Christine said, adjusting herself on the sofa. "Julia needs to go back to school. Staying home for so long isn't healthy for her development." "I don't know," Henry replied hesitantly. "She's just started talking again. Maybe it's too soon." "Darling, I'm a doctor, trust me. Social reintegration is essential in her case. Besides," Christine lowered her voice, but Iris could still hear, "it's not good for her to be so dependent on the maid. It can confuse her family references." Henry's expression showed internal conflict. "Iris has been a blessing to Julia." "I'm not denying that," Christine smiled, but there was something predatory in that smile. "But she's an employee, not a family member. When we get married and I move in here, I want to establish a healthy family dynamic. I will be the mother Julia needs." Iris felt her blood boil. How could that woman talk about replacing Julia's mother so coldly? And worse, how could she try to push the girl away just when she was starting to recover? But Iris knew her place there was complicated. She wasn't family, no, matter how much her heart already considered Julia a daughter. The following days brought an increasingly present Christine in the house. She announced that she would take a vacation from the hospital to organize the wedding and decided to temporarily move into the mansion to adapt to the family routine, as she justified. One morning, while Iris was helping Julia with her bath, Christine entered the bathroom without knocking. "I'll take over from here," she announced with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "After all, I'll soon be her mother. I need to practice, don't I?" Julia looked at Iris with pleading eyes. "But Auntie Iris always helps me." "Auntie Iris has other duties in the house, dear. She needs to clean, wash, iron, maid's work." The condescending tone made Iris press her lips together to keep from responding, but Julia's gaze prevented her from simply leaving. "It's no problem, Dr. Allen. We're almost done, and I have a routine with Julia that makes things easier for her." Christine's smile disappeared completely. "I insist. You may leave now." Reluctantly, Iris left the bathroom but stayed nearby, anxious. Minutes later, she heard a cry of pain, followed by crying. She rushed into the bathroom where she found Julia crying, while Christine tried to dry her with abrupt movements. "What happened?" Iris asked, instinctively taking the towel from Christine's hands. "Nothing much. She's just very spoiled," Christine replied, irritated. She refused to stand on her own and slipped. "She hurt my leg," Julia sobbed, showing a red mark on her thigh. "It was an accident," Christine defended herself. "And you, Iris, are overstepping your bounds. Leave or I'll have to talk to Henry about your insubordination." That night, Iris sought Henry in his study. She was nervous but determined to talk about Christine's behavior with Julia. "Excuse me, Dr. Henry, may I speak with you for a minute?" Henry looked up from the documents he was analyzing. "Of course, Iris. Has something happened?" "It's about Julia and Dr. Allen," Iris began, choosing her words carefully. "I've noticed that Julia seems uncomfortable around the doctor, and today there was an incident during her bath." Christine told me," Henry interrupted with a sigh. "She said you interfered when she was trying to establish a bond with Julia. Look, Iris, I understand that you and Julia have developed a special connection, but Christine will be her stepmother. It's natural for her to want to participate in the girl's care." Iris felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Christine had anticipated her distorting the facts. "Dr. Henry, it's not quite like that. Julia got hurt and—" Christine explained it was an accident. Henry cut her off again. "Look, I'm very grateful for everything you've done for my daughter, but I need you to respect Christine's position in the family we are forming." Iris swallowed the words she wanted to say. She knew that insisting would only make things worse, and if she were fired, she could no longer protect Julia. "I understand, sir. I apologize if I overstepped." 2 weeks later, during a dinner with some friends of the couple present, Christine made an unexpected announcement. "Henry and I have wonderful news to share," she said, raising her champagne glass. "Besides getting married in 2 months, we're expanding our family. I'm pregnant!" The table erupted in applause and congratulations. Henry seemed genuinely surprised and moved, embracing Christine with tears in his eyes. Julia, sitting next to Iris, who was serving dessert, turned pale. "She's lying," the girl whispered to Iris when everyone was distracted. "What do you mean, Julia?" "That's a very serious accusation," Iris replied, also in a whisper. "Yesterday I heard her on the phone. She told someone that the plan was working, and that she would soon get rid of the brat and get everything." Iris felt a shiver. "Are you sure of what you heard, Julia?" The girl nodded, her eyes full of fear. "She didn't know I was there." "Auntie Iris, I'm scared of her." In the days that followed, Iris began to observe Christine more closely. She noticed that she never showed common pregnancy symptoms. No morning sickness, no change in her diet. She continued to drink wine at meals when she thought no one was looking. More worrying still, her behavior with Julia worsened when Henry was not around. One afternoon, while cleaning the master bedroom, Iris found a box of pills hidden under some clothes in Christine's drawer. She wasn't a doctor, but she recognized female hormones. Her cousin had taken something similar when trying to get pregnant. Why would Christine have hidden hormones? Suspicion began to grow within Iris. What if Julia was right? What if Christine was lying about the pregnancy? Could her plans be darker than simply wanting to marry a successful businessman? Determined to protect Julia, Iris began her own investigation. She asked a nurse friend to research hormones that could simulate pregnancy symptoms. The answer she received confirmed her suspicions. The pills she had found were exactly for that purpose. One morning when everyone had gone out, Iris searched Christine's room more thoroughly. At the bottom of a document folder, she found something alarming. A medical exam dated just 3 months prior, indicating that Christine had undergone a procedure that made pregnancy practically impossible. "My God," Iris murmured, feeling her heart race. The story Julia had heard made sense now. If Christine couldn't have children, but had announced a pregnancy, what else would she be willing to do for Henry's money? That same afternoon, Christine arrived home unexpectedly and found Iris in the hallway coming out of her room. "What were you doing in my room?" she asked, her eyes flashing with anger. "Tidying up." "Dr. Allen, it's part of my job," Iris replied, maintaining her calm despite her racing heart. Christine approached, like a predator circling its prey. "Don't lie to me. You were snooping. What were you looking for? What do you think you found?" "Nothing, Doctor. Just doing my duties." "Listen closely." Christine lowered her voice to a threatening whisper. "I don't know what you think you know, but I suggest you keep your mouth shut. Don't forget who you are here. Just an easily replaceable domestic worker. I know you've grown attached to Julia as if she were your daughter, but she's not. Your daughter is dead, remember?" The blow was so cruel that Iris felt as if she had been physically struck. How did Christine know about Annie? Henry must have told her, without imagining the information would be used as a weapon. "You are mistaken about many things, Dr. Allen," Iris replied, holding back tears. "And perhaps you are misleading many people too." Christine's face paled for an instant, but soon her cold smile returned. "Be careful what you insinuate, Iris, very careful. Domestic accidents happen every day, you know, and it wouldn't be the first time a child suffers a serious accident." The veiled threat chilled Iris's blood. It wasn't just about her. Christine was threatening Julia. At that moment, Iris knew she needed to act fast, before it was too late. Night fell with Iris still trembling after the confrontation with Christine. As she tidied Julia's bed for bedtime, the girl noticed her uneasiness. "Auntie Iris, are you sad?" Julia asked, holding Teddy against her chest. Iris forced a smile, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I'm just thoughtful, my dear. It's because of her, isn't it?" Julia lowered her voice, looking at the door as if fearing Christine might appear at any moment. "I know she's mean. Yesterday, when you went to the supermarket, she came into my room and said that when they get married, I'm going to a boarding school far away." Iris felt her heart ache. Christine's threats were becoming increasingly explicit. "Julia, I need you to tell me everything Christine says to you when you're alone. It's very important." The girl hesitated, fear evident in her eyes. "She'll get angry." "I won't let her hurt you, I promise." Iris held Julia's small hands in hers. "Do you trust me?" Julia nodded slowly and began to tell her story. The stories that followed made Iris feel a mixture of anger and horror. Christine had told Julia that her father no longer wanted to take care of her, that she was a burden since her mother's accident, and that she would soon have a baby brother who would be much more loved because he would be her real child. She said that if I told Daddy anything, he wouldn't believe me and would be so angry he'd send me away. Iris hugged Julia tightly, trying to hold back her own tears. "That's not true, my love. Your dad loves you more than anything, and I do too." After putting Julia to sleep, Iris decided she could no longer wait. She needed to show Henry the evidence she had found about Christine's deception. She knew it would be her word against the doctors, so she needed concrete evidence. The next morning, Iris took photos of the infertility medical exam and the hormones hidden in Christine's drawer. It wasn't the most ethical way to act, but Julia's safety was at stake. In addition, she wrote down in detail the threats Christine had made to both her and the girl. In the late afternoon, when Henry arrived home from work, Iris asked to speak with him privately. "Dr. Henry, I know it might seem like I'm meddling where I shouldn't, but I need to show you something. It's about Dr. Allen." Henry sighed, looking tired. "Iris, we've talked about this. I understand you're concerned about Julia, but—" "Please," Iris interrupted, something she had never done before. "Just look at these photos." Reluctantly, Henry took Iris's phone. His expression gradually changed from irritation to confusion, and then to something close to shock. This is from Dr. Matthews' office. Is this Christine's medical record?" "Yes, sir. I found it hidden among her documents. This is an infertility exam from only 3 months ago. And these are hormone pills that simulate pregnancy symptoms. Henry ran his hand through his hair, visibly disturbed. This can't be right. Christine wouldn't do this. There must be an explanation. There's more, sir, Iris continued, showing him notes she had made of the conversations Julia had reported. Your daughter has been hearing very disturbing things. Christine has threatened to send her away, has said that you no longer want her. No, Henry exclaimed, standing up abruptly. That's absurd. Julia is everything to me. I know that, sir. That's why I'm showing you all this. I'm worried about her safety. Henry seemed to be struggling internally. I can't believe Christine. She's a doctor, a respected person. Why would she do something like this? Money, perhaps? Iris suggested cautiously. You are a successful man. Your company is worth millions. I'll talk to her, Henry decided. I need to hear her side. Dr. Henry, with all due respect, if you confront her directly, she will deny everything and destroy the evidence. And if Julia is right about what she heard, about Christine wanting to get rid of her, I'm afraid of what might happen. Henry looked deeply into Iris's eyes. Do you really believe Christine would be capable of hurting my daughter? Yesterday she threatened me, sir. She said accidents happen. She spoke of my daughter, who is no longer with us. It was cruel. Something in Henry's gaze changed, as if a blindfold had been removed. You wouldn't invent this. You're not the kind of person who would do something like that. Never, sir. I just want to protect Julia. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Christine entered the study without knocking, smiling as always, but her eyes narrowed when she saw Iris there. Am I interrupting something? She asked with false sweetness. Just a few domestic details, Henry replied, recovering quickly. Iris was just leaving. With a meaningful look at Iris, he discreetly took her phone and put it in his jacket pocket. I'll analyze these matters and we'll talk later. Iris nodded and left, feeling Christine's gaze burning into her back. During dinner, the tension was palpable. Henry barely touched his food, observing Christine with a different look. Julia, sensing the heavy atmosphere, was quieter than usual. Only Christine seemed oblivious to the discomfort, talking animatedly about the wedding preparations. I thought we could move the date up, she suggested. Placing her hand on Henry's, I see no reason to wait, since our family is already growing. She caressed her belly, in a theatrical gesture. About that, Henry said, putting his cutlery aside. I've been thinking we should get an ultrasound together. I want to see our baby, share these moments with you. Something flashed quickly in Christine's eyes, alarm. But she recovered almost instantly. Of course, my love, but it's still early, you know. I'm barely 6 weeks along. Even so, my friend, Dr. Paul, is one of the best obstetricians in Sussex. I called him today and he can see us tomorrow. Christine's smile wavered. Tomorrow I have a shift, darling. It won't be possible. What a coincidence, Henry leaned slightly forward. I called the hospital today to surprise you. I wanted to pick you up for lunch, but they informed me that you've been on leave for 2 weeks. You haven't been going to work, Christine. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Christine dropped her fork, which clinked against the plate. I can explain. I'm eager to hear, Henry replied, with a terrifying calm. Just as I'm eager to understand why you've been hiding infertility exams while announcing a pregnancy. Christine paled. Her gaze went directly to Iris, who was serving dessert at the other end of the table. It was her, wasn't it? Christine hissed. That meddling little maid. What did she do? Was she rummaging through my things? Is this true, Christine? Henry insisted, ignoring the accusation. You can't have children? Are you faking this pregnancy? Julia, who was watching everything with wide eyes, spoke for the first time. I told you she was lying. Daddy, she wants to send me away and get everything. Christine suddenly stood up, knocking over her chair. You're not going to believe this brat, are you? Or this insignificant maid who's trying to take your wife's place? Ex-wife, Henry corrected, also standing up. Patricia left us over a year ago. And Iris never tried to take anyone's place. She just brought my daughter back to me, while you were trying to push her away. This is ridiculous. I'm pregnant with your child. Prove it, Henry challenged. Let's go to a clinic right now. Get a blood test, an ultrasound. Prove you're expecting my child. Christine's face contorted into a mask of fury. "You'll regret this, Henry. I was going to give you a family, respect, status." "I already have a family," he replied, placing his hand on Julia's shoulder protectively. "And as for respect and status, I don't need a woman to have them. You're an idiot. Do you think you can humiliate me like this?" Christine grabbed a wine glass and threw it against the wall. The glass shattered, spreading shards and wine across the immaculate wall. "This house should be mine. That brat should be far away from here." Henry became very serious. "I think you need to leave my house now, Christine. And don't come back. You can't do this to me." "I can and I will. Leave or I'll call security." Christine looked around like a cornered animal until her eyes landed on Iris. "You," she pointed, with distilled hatred in her voice. "This is your fault. You'll pay dearly, I promise." With that, she stormed out of the room. Minutes later, they heard the front door slam shut. A heavy silence fell over the dining room, broken only by Julia's stifled sobs. Henry knelt beside his daughter's chair. "It's all right now, Princess." "She won't come back." "She was going to send me away, Daddy," Julia whimpered. "Never," Henry assured, hugging her. "No one will ever separate us." Later, after Julia fell asleep, Henry sought Iris in the kitchen. She was finishing cleaning up the dinner mess, still shaken by the evening's events. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, standing at the door. "If it weren't for you, I just did what any decent person would do," Iris replied, drying her hands on her apron. "Julia is a special child. She deserves to be protected." "It's not just that," Henry approached. "You brought life back to this house. You brought my daughter back. And today you saved us from something that could have been disastrous." Iris smiled shyly. "I'm happy to help. I want you to know that your place in this house is guaranteed for as long as you wish to stay," Henry continued. "And if you need anything at all, just ask." "Thank you, Dr. Henry, that means a lot." For a moment they stood there in silence, looking at each other with a new understanding. There was something different in the air, something neither of them was ready to name yet. Spring arrived in Brighton, dressing the city in vibrant colors and perfuming the air with the scent of tropical flowers. In the Miller mansion, the last 6 months had brought profound changes. The room that once belonged to Christine now housed a small library, Julia's idea, who had discovered the pleasure of reading. Iris gazed at the garden from the kitchen window as she prepared Sunday lunch, her thoughts wandering through the events that had transformed her life. The incident with Christine had left scars, a small cut on her temple that was barely noticeable now. But it also strengthened the bonds between her, Julia and Henry. After the attack, Henry insisted that Iris could no longer stay in the maid's room. "It's too isolated," he argued. "What if you need help during the night?" So she was moved to one of the guest rooms next to Julia's. It was spacious, airy, with a sea view, a luxury she had never imagined having. Gradually, her position in the house also changed. From domestic worker, Iris officially became Julia's guardian. Henry insisted on formalizing the situation, offering her a proper contract with a decent salary and all labor rights. "You saved my daughter twice," he explained. "First from sadness, then literally from violence. There's no value that can pay for that. Auntie Iris." Julia's voice interrupted her thoughts. The girl ran into the kitchen with energy, her curly hair blowing in the wind. She was tanned and healthy, unrecognizable compared to the pale, silent child of a year ago. "Look what Daddy and I found in the attic." In her small hands, Julia held a carved wooden box. Henry appeared right behind her, smiling at Iris's curious expression. "It's a jewelry box that belonged to my grandmother," he explained. "Julia was curious about our ancestors, so we went to investigate the old chests." "There are old photos in here," Julia exclaimed, opening the box on the kitchen table. "Look, this baby is Daddy." Iris smiled, drying her hands on her apron to handle the yellowed photographs. "How handsome you were, Dr. Henry. Were you born with that serious look?" Henry laughed, approaching. "It's been a while since you called me Doctor, Iris. And no, according to my mother, I was quite a cheerful baby. The seriousness came later with responsibilities." There was a tone in his voice that Iris knew well. In recent months, Henry had begun to open up more about Patricia's loss, about how he blamed himself for not being able to protect her from the accident, about how he had sunk into work and isolation after her passing. "There are several photos of Grandma, too," Julia continued, spreading the images. She was beautiful. Yes, she was, Henry agreed softly. And she would be very happy to see you strong and cheerful as you are now, Princess. Julia smiled, picking up another photograph. Grandma would like Auntie Iris too, wouldn't she? Henry and Iris exchanged a quick glance. I'm sure she would, daughter, he replied. Well, I'm going to finish lunch, Iris said, returning to the stove. Why don't you two set the table on the veranda? The day is perfect for eating outside. As Henry and Julia left the kitchen, Iris felt that familiar warmth in her chest. She never imagined she would find a family again after losing Annie. But there she was, at the center of a home rebuilt from the ashes of tragedy, not as an employee, but as someone essential, someone loved. Sunday passed in harmony. After lunch, the three walked along the beach near the house. Julia ran ahead, chasing seagulls and collecting seashells, while Henry and Iris followed a few steps behind. You seem thoughtful today, Henry observed. Iris smiled. I'm just grateful. If someone had told me a year ago that I would be here, living like this, I wouldn't have believed it. We are the ones who should be grateful, he replied, casually holding her hand, a gesture that had become natural in recent months. You saved us, Iris, in many ways. We saved each other, she corrected, intertwining her fingers with his. Your daughter brought purpose back to my life when I thought I had nothing left to live for. They walked in silence for a few minutes, just feeling the sea breeze and watching Julia, who was now drawing in the sand with a stick. I heard news about Christine yesterday, Henry commented after a while. She's responding well to treatment. Doctors believe the traumatic event she suffered in childhood, when she lost her parents, was never properly treated. It created in her this obsession with material security and status. It's sad, Iris reflected. Deep down she just wanted what we all want, to belong, to be loved. The difference is that she tried to forcefully take what you naturally achieve, with kindness, with authenticity. Henry stopped walking, turning to face her. You know, sometimes I wonder if all this wasn't meant to happen exactly this way, if we weren't all destined to meet. Are you talking about destiny, Dr. Miller? Iris teased with a smile. I'm saying that losing Patricia was the most painful thing I've ever experienced, Henry replied, serious. And losing Annie must have been equally devastating for you. But somehow from these two tragedies something beautiful emerged, something that is healing both me and Julia, and I hope you too. Iris felt tears forming in her eyes. Yes, it's healing. A little more every day. Daddy! Auntie Iris, come see what I found, Julia shouted, waving energetically from where she stood, near some rocks. When they approached, they saw that she had found a starfish, orange and perfect, resting in a small tide pool among the rocks. It's beautiful, Iris exclaimed, kneeling down to get a better look. Can we take it home? Julia asked, hopeful. Better not, dear, Henry replied. It's alive and needs to stay in the sea, but we can take a picture to remember this moment. Julia agreed, satisfied with the suggestion. Henry took his phone out of his pocket and captured not just the starfish, but also the moment. Julia and Iris kneeling together, hair in the wind, radiant smiles, with the brightened sea in the background. On the evening of that same Sunday, after Julia fell asleep, Henry invited Iris for coffee on the veranda, a ritual they had developed in recent months. I have something to show you, he said, suddenly seeming nervous. From his pocket he took out a small photo album. I found it in the attic today, along with the other things, but I didn't want to show it in front of Julia yet. Intrigued, Iris opened the album. On the first pages, there were photos of a radiant, pregnant Patricia, then with newborn Julia in her arms. She was truly beautiful, Iris commented sincerely. She had Julia's same smile. Yes, she did, Henry agreed, his voice choked. You know, for a long time I couldn't look at these photos. It hurt too much. But today, when I found them, I realized I can appreciate the memories without feeling destroyed by them. He turned a few pages, showing moments of Julia's childhood with her mother, birthdays, Christmases, days at the beach. Patricia was a wonderful mother, he continued, loving, patient, fun. When she left, I felt that Julia had lost not only her mother, but also part of her joy for life. That's why it was so extraordinary to see you bringing that joy back. Iris leafed through the photos carefully, respecting each memory printed in those images. It's important that Julia never forgets her mother. That she knows how much she was loved. Exactly, Henry agreed. And that's why I wanted to show you this today. Because I know that you, more than anyone, understand the importance of honoring those who are no longer here while moving forward. He paused, seeming to gather courage for something. Iris, in these months we've spent together, something happened that I didn't expect. Something that for a while I even felt guilty for feeling. She raised her eyes from the album, meeting his intense gaze. I fell in love with you, Henry finally declared. For your strength, your kindness, the way you loved Julia, the way you faced everything that happened without losing your sweetness. And I've been struggling with this because, well, I thought it would be disrespecting Patricia's memory, or perhaps too soon, or that you didn't feel the same. Iris felt her heart race. She too had been struggling with similar feelings, sometimes blaming herself for allowing herself this new happiness after Annie's loss. I also fell in love, she confessed in a low voice. And I also felt guilty, as if I was betraying my daughter's memory by being happy again. But then I realized that Annie would never want me to live in sadness for the rest of my life, just as Patricia would never want Julia to grow up without a maternal figure, or for me to never know love again, Henry completed. He closed the photo album and set it aside, taking Iris's hands in his. I'm not suggesting we replace those we lost. No one will ever take Patricia's place for Julia, just as no one will take Annie's place for you. But perhaps we can create something new, something ours, built on respect for that past. Silent tears ran down Iris's face. It's everything I could wish for. Henry smiled, gently wiping away a tear with his thumb. So, Iris Stewart, would you agree to no longer be Julia's guardian, but rather her mother? No longer my friend, but my companion, my life partner. Are you asking me to marry you, Dr. Henry? She asked with a smile through her tears. I am. In the most sincere way possible. Yes, Iris replied without hesitation. Yes, I accept to build this future with you. The following month, in a simple ceremony in the mansion's garden, with Brighton Bay as the backdrop, Henry and Iris formalized their union. Julia, radiant in a sky-blue dress, was the flower girl, proudly carrying the rings. Can I call you Mom now? She asked Iris after the ceremony, as they sat together on a swing in the garden. If you want to, Iris replied, moved. But know that your mom, your first mom, will always have a special place in your heart. And that's okay. I know, Julia replied with wisdom beyond her years. I have room in my heart for two moms. Just like you have room for two daughters, don't you? Me and Annie. Iris hugged the girl tightly, marveling at her perception. Exactly like that, my love. Henry approached, sitting beside them on the swing. The two women in my life together. I couldn't ask for anything better. We're a family now, Julia said with conviction. A real family. As the sun set over Brighton, tinting the sky pink and orange, the three remained together on the swing, united not by blood, but by something equally powerful, the conscious choice to love, to heal, to build a future that honored the past without living trapped in it. And somewhere, Iris liked to think, Annie and Patricia smiled, content to see those they left behind, finding their way back to happiness. Side by side, step by step, day after day, rebuilding tomorrow on foundations of true love.